maybe you can just kick off with a brief introduction to this incredible new series, The Serpent Queen, and tell us a little bit about the character that you play.
Yeah. So The Serpent Queen is based on the story of Catherine de' Medici, who was taken from France as a young woman and brought into the French court. And I play Arbus, who is a member of her entourage of absolute misfits, basically, who are just trying to make life happen. So that is it in a nutshell from my character's perspective.
And, when you read this script, what was the appeal for you? Because watching the completed series, I mean, it's got, it's a historical drama, but it's got a real edge to it. And it feels incredibly contemporary, kind of in the way it's cast and the storytelling. So was that immediately obvious to you when you first read the script?
Absolutely. I think within the first page, I was like, this is really good. This is going to be really good. Echoing what you just said, it does have a really contemporary feel. What really drew me to the script and what I found really exciting was how absolutely unlikable the female characters were allowed to be and how brutal they could be towards each other, how manipulative they could be. And you see all these really dark and nasty sides of women that, initially you sort of think, oh, period drama, it'll just be, ladies in big skirts floating around and fainting. And it's the absolute opposite. They're screaming and grotesque and really real and unforgiving with each other and really manipulative, especially the character of Catherine de' Medici and the choices she makes. And although it does really touch on all those themes that everybody resonates with, and a film probably wouldn't be a film without, or a show wouldn't be a show without, in terms of love and betrayal and revenge, I think it doesn't shy away from just giving a period drama real humanity in a way that's incredibly modern and relatable.
And, how much research did you have to do or prep? Because I wasn't that familiar with Catherine as a monarch, or not necessarily kind of the ins and outs of that period of history. So, but it's brought so much to life and the kind of attention to detail. So did you have to kind of immerse yourself in all that before you started?
I think because my character, although she's from the Ottoman Empire, and obviously that's part of the whole story as well, isn't based on an actual person within the true life story of Catherine, but is based on stories around how she sort of ran the court and manipulated men and so on and so forth. So I didn't have to do any personal research towards my own character, aside from the standard research you would do to see how life during that time would be. Again, the writing sort of throws that on its head anyway. But obviously, because Catherine is such an interesting character and the people around her are so interesting, I did delve into the history of it, and it is based on a book. So I did do a lot of Googling and a lot of reading and a lot of finding out what the Serpent Queen was, and, how much of the dark arts that she was into, which was so fascinating to me, actually existed, or, that if people believed in it or if it was possibly real. So yeah, I dabbled in some research, definitely.
And what about stepping onto that set? I mean, because I don't know, what it was like, on screen, it looks like it was incredibly extensive, and putting on those costumes. But like you say, it's not done in this kind of prissy, through rose-tinted glasses at all. It's there in the vulgarity and the mud and everything. So, what was it like on the shoot?
It was, first and foremost, the sets were incredible. Some of them were built, some of them were actually the real life places, the chateaus were the chateaus. So that in itself, you really felt like you really got to step into a part of history. And, I think that really helps in every sense with acting. It was just really fantastic to see all the craftsmanship that goes into it, whether it's the costumes or the minutiae of the details with what was there, or the colors that they'd chosen. I found the artistic integrity of it really, really on point. It was absolutely stunning.
And what about this incredible ensemble cast, and it's really diverse the way, it's been put together. And then right at the centre, of course, we've got Samantha Morton, who I've been a fan of from way back when, and then Liv Hill as well, who just seems such a, an incredible force of nature for such a young actress.
Absolutely. I think the cast is so outstanding, and it was just incredible to work with talent on, yes, Liv Hill might be kind of a bit new to the game, but she, like you said, is such a force and is so playful. And, when you're surrounded by talent at every level, whether it's people like Samantha who have been around for so long, or someone like Liv who's coming into her own and really going for it and giving a new and unpredictable depth. It was just a joy to be around, and everybody just was living their best life basically on the set and having a lot of fun and asking a lot of questions. And I think what was amazing was that everybody was making the character their own and really embracing the fact that this wasn't just kind of a really stiff period drama, that you could play around and really bring a sense of life and modernism to it, which I think again just makes it a really fun and incredible watch.
And do you think we are kind of breaking down perhaps some of those conventions that used to be associated with period drama? Because I just feel like there's a shift that's been happening, with the likes of Bridgerton, which I know is a completely different drama to this one, but, it just gradually would kind of bring down some of those barriers. Or do you think there's still a way to go? People's perceptions of what is going to evolve, are still a little fixed.
I don't think it's about whether it has a way to go. I think it's just about the style that the stories are chosen to be told in. I personally find this way of it more interesting. In The Serpent Queen, we also break third wall and we speak, or some of the characters do actually speak to the audience and speak to the camera. And I think it helps with the connection of it, and especially with the female roles, making them feel not so far away, and that you can sort of understand them. You can understand the choices they made or the situations that they were in, and the fact that they had all these obstacles around them. It's really interesting to find the gutsy ways that they chose to, whether it's use their bodies or their manipulation skills or bribery or threats, whatever they chose. How did they get by in life, and how did they, I suppose, take control and take power? That's what I found was more interesting to watch in a more raw and, I suppose, no rose-tinted glasses style of writing and performance, really.
And also not kind of sticking to kind of an all-white cast like maybe we've seen in the past, and kind of, just having that variation, which feels more in tune with kind of contemporary life, but also more reflective of the time often.
It does. I mean, I thought it was really interesting that, my character is part of the LGBT community, and that, we're not shying away from that. And that, there's a lot of non-PC language thrown about as well. But yeah, I think it's brilliant that it is opening up the casting a lot more as well, and that there was an acknowledgement of the fact that it wasn't just Caucasian people that were around during that time. There was a lot of different influences, and there's a lot of stories that haven't been told that are really interesting to touch upon, actually, rather than everything that we have seen up to now, perhaps.
And what do you hope that people take away from watching it? Because I guess on the one side, it's just one of those really immersive, enthralling stories. You get swept away into another era. But there is also that theme of kind of like, against all odds, and she just kind of was really ahead of her time. So she's an incredible female character in that sense.
Well, I think what I hope, and I feel like I know people will take away from it, is not to mess with women. No, but literally that, like, female characters are really interesting, that you can put women at the helm of a show and they will carry it, and they will carry it, and they will carry it through. And that is really interesting to watch. And it doesn't matter, what kind of character it is. It could be whether it's, a servant downstairs or the queen upstairs or anyone around. Everyone has a story, and the female characters, especially in The Serpent Queen, are just so brutal, and it's just so interesting. And I hope that kind of opens up people's mind to the fact that, there are so many untold stories where women are concerned and could be very clearly the leads, basically.
And what about for you in your career? I mean, you've done such an amazing array of roles, from theatre to TV, Game of Thrones, playing a doctor, now this. So, what have been some of the highlights for you, and where have you got your sights set next?
The highlights have really been working with different directors and different styles of writing. This, as I said, was so interesting because it was the first period drama I'd done. And not only that, but it was such a different one. while we've been waiting for the show to come out, I've been doing some writing and directing. So I've just finished directing my second short film, which also has women at the helm, and that are also really nasty to each other. So yeah, I think actually being on Serpent Queen really pushed me to gain the confidence to sort of create stories about, I guess, I wouldn't say atypical women, but women that aren't perhaps seen on screen so much. So that's kind of where I've been putting my focus this year, is really exploring that side of my creativity.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us. I can't wait for everyone to get stuck into the Serpent Queen. Thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Lovely to chat to you.